Ibra di testa, Tonali, gol! Sandro! Meritato! Sandro! Gol!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined by a pancake-eating Anthony Torgrud.
Yeah, what's up, guys? You're going to see me eat breakfast for a little bit, but I'm here and I'm doing it. We got Madison.
Yeah, good to be back after what seems like 3-4 weeks.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It has been a while. Yeah.
just 2 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, look, there's no point winning a World Cup in Qatar anyway. I feel like people wouldn't credit that as a proper achievement. So I'm personally glad that our nations are out and now we can go back to focusing on the horrendous human rights records and other things, and we can focus on winning it at your place, USA 2026. Bring
You know
it
what's
on.
cool that I didn't realize until this weekend? The 2026 World Cup is obviously a summer World Cup, so it's going to go through July, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And July 4th of 2026 is the USA's 250th anniversary as a country, so big celebrations. It's all lined up. We're going
Probably
to
won't
win
be
it.
the final that day.
It's a
though, will
good
it?
day for England to win the World Cup for the first time since 1966.
Imagine if that's the day it gets completely overwritten. That's the thing, is it would become a national holiday for us as well then if it happened.
Yeah, probably would.
Do you know what? I'm really excited for that though, because I never had any intention at all of flying out to Qatar for this. It just, everything building up to it was like, why would you go as a spectator? Sounds like some fans have had a good time and stuff, but USA, like, I'm really targeting it. Like, I'm going to start going to England away games and stuff to rack up points, so then we get preferential ticket stuff, you know, and hopefully we'll be
smart.
over for that. And then
Here it's just if you're rich enough to buy tickets, you go.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know it's going to be
they're gonna be
expensive
cheap.
still. I mean, they were complaining about a pint of beer in Qatar being like £30 because hotels and stuff that were allowed to serve it are just charging whatever they want because they know people will pay it.
Beer here won't be that expensive. I can almost guarantee that.
No, but I think it'll still be pretty expensive.
Your flight's going to cost a lot. Your hotel's going to cost way more than it ever should. And your match tickets are going to be expensive. But that's it.
What are the host
food and
cities
stuff
again?
will be
Have they clarified
Dude,
where
there's
it's
so
gonna
many
be?
of them.
There's a bunch of them. And it's all over 3 countries. So it's not going to... I don't think it's
Just
going to
plan
be a
East
goal
Coast.
fest. Yeah, I would do East Coast.
Because that's
They're
what I'm doing.
closer.
It's
Yeah.
Boston, New York, and Philly.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'd do. That'd be cool.
Yeah, but because like Qatar's so small, it's smaller than the state of Connecticut, which, you know, means something to Madison and I, but for you, it's a very small country or state. So, you know, they all are just staying in the same hotel. They're getting their training in the same facilities, and they're just, you know, they're playing. But when they come here, it's going to be so spread out. It's going to be days of travel between. I don't think we're going to see many goal fests, to be honest with you.
No, it's going to be quite weird.
I think
adapting to
that
time zones.
teams will be located in sections
I would think so. Yeah.
instead of like playing one game in Boston and then flying down to Monterey and playing the next game there.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that would make
but yeah.
sense. Like hubs for the different groups.
Although,
Also-
like with Brazil, the U.S. team traveled like 9,000 miles in a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know-
they're-
The northernmost point of Brazil is closer to the southernmost point of Canada than it is to the southernmost point of Brazil.
No,
Fun fact. And
Fuck, it's a
I
long
just got to say,
country.
this is the worst pancake I've ever made, ever had. So fucking burnt. I might just throw it out.
You can do that if you want.
did you go out and buy coffee?
No, I just buy these cups.
What else?
That
you
was
say?
serious.
Oh, yeah.
I do just buy the cups
I
on Amazon.
was like, oh, what a weirdo. And then I was like, he's being an asshole. And I was like, no, he's actually being serious.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I buy the cups. It's just easier.
Yeah.
So SempreMilan podcast, we've talked
Yeah,
about
we do
AJ's
have a
breakfast,
podcast.
World
Yeah.
Cup, human rights, and the kind of cups that AJ drinks out
Look
of.
at this
Maybe
shit.
we'll
World
actually talk
Cups,
about
coffee
The
cups.
blackest
Wow.
pancake
What
you've
about
ever
the
seen.
Dubai Super Cup? No, we'll come on
what
to that.
about
I
it?
just wanted to say, as part of the little World Cup segue that I began there. Obviously, the significance is that Olivier Giroud and Theo Hernandez are through to a World Cup semi-final, so good for them. Rafael knocked out by Morocco. There's been some shocks in this tournament. Brazil going home early on penalties. I couldn't believe that, to be honest. You know, They couldn't see out a lead for like 6 minutes against Croatia. But yeah, they've gone home early. Portugal have gone home early. Morocco are through. World champions
I would
France
say that
now.
Portugal made it as far as they were supposed to.
Yeah, but not when you face
Yeah, I
Morocco.
didn't think they'd go any further. Oh, well, okay. I guess that's true.
Morocco, obviously, the story of the tournament, don't get me wrong, but surely Portugal would have backed themselves to win that after beating Switzerland like 6-1. Anyway, is what it is. Leao's out, and we'll join up with the rest of the team when they're back from Dubai. Teo and Giroud go on. Giroud obviously ended up scoring a winner against England, so glass half full to an extent. Teo, lucky boy, silly foul for that penalty, but ultimately got away with it. And he should have been sent off for that as well, but he's still there. He's still in the tournament, and France must now feel like they have a pretty good chance at defending. Otherwise, it's going to be Messi's year probably. So we'll see, and that's it. Good luck to the boys. I kind of hope from a Milan point of view they go on and win it. It'd be massive for Teo. Obviously, Giroud's kind of experienced it before, but it'd be massive for Teo to be part of a team that has done something as special as win the World Cup. And it's also proof to other players that you don't necessarily need to leave Milan to be part of teams that win obviously massive competitions. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think Giroud, if he, I mean, he's only one off on Golden Boot right now behind Mbappe, his teammate. So if he somehow pulls off a couple goals, wins that Golden Boot, and then if we, beat Spurs and go to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, get that second star or something, like, all of a sudden he might be at least towards the top of that Ballon d'Or list. You got to give him a shout. So that'd be cool.
Top 10. Be top 10. I think he can do it as well. Like, I think England, a lot of the build-up from the English point of view was how do we stop Mbappe? And I was saying all week, well, if you double up on Mbappe, you leave space for Giroud. And that is exactly what ended up happening. We kept Mbappe really quiet, but then the guy who scored the winning goal is the guy who needs half a yard of space to make you pay.
There was one play at the beginning of the game where Giroud was diving towards towards center field, but he was in the box and he had a header on target. And I was like, only this motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said too. I was like, who else finds that ball? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quality of service or what, but he does seem to have been up a level on what we're used to. But look, the trend is that, innit? He scores big goals, and fair dues is what it is. I don't know what we're on now. We're like 56 years. 56 years of hurt. It'll become 60, and we'll see what we can do in the USA, I guess. I suppose there's the Euros in Germany in 2024, which might be something to target. But yeah, that's it. If Morocco don't go on and complete the fairy tale, I don't think they're good enough, to be honest, to beat France. But people would have said that about the Portugal game as well. And then Croatia look like a team that are going to be really tough to beat. But I don't know. It feels like France-Argentina final looks pretty good bet at this moment.
Don't think France looked that good against England.
No, we were the better team. It's just the look of football, isn't it? They take the chances and we miss a penalty. There's no one in the world that I would want over that penalty more than Harry Kane. And pressure does funny things to people. And very Spursy, as people have been saying. But yeah, that's it. Fine margins in football. Let's move on. We are back in action technically. I know you boys didn't watch this because it was like an early afternoon game, making it early hours-ish.
Yeah, I think it was like 8:30 kickoff time in the morning. And I was getting tires. I had no interest in watching Tatarusanu ever again. So that's my final slander, I guess, of the season for.
Especially if you set your alarm for 7:30 just to check the starting lineups and you see Pobega and Krunic playing wing back in a 3-5-2, I'd probably go back to bed as well. Yeah, we played a Serie D side anyway called Lumezzane. They're from near Brescia, so it's only a short trip for them. Of course, we'd only been in training again for 2 days, so everything was going to be a bit rough and ready. The lineup that we cobbled together wasn't particularly brilliant either. We had Bakune in there from the Primavera. Rebic and Origi up front together, who both looked a bit rusty, and we fell a goal behind. That was pretty funny. Everyone was, talking about sacking Pioli off the back of that first half performance, but ultimately managed to level it through Yassine Adli. That was a good goal. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah,
Solo
he
run.
kind of
He
does it
beat
his own.
four players and thumps it in at the near post. So that's good for his confidence. I mean, we discussed last week about the idea of him having some good friendlies and that being good for his morale, whether that is with us or whether he goes out on loan for the second part of the season, we'll see. And then they went 2-1 up again. Absolute screamer from Mauri. And I thought, is that Jose Mauri? You know, the midfielder that we had? It's not actually him. So that's a bit disappointing. But yeah, laser into the top corner. Mirante couldn't really do much, but at least we got to see a bit of Mirante play. At least he's now got a few, I mean, it doesn't even count, but at least he's got a few minutes under his belt should we need him, should we have an emergency. And then it was 2 Primavera players who came off the bench and made the difference, which is strange against a team of like fully grown adults that it took the kids to make the difference. But the first goal came from Gabriele Alessi. He was having a good season with the Primavera, and the winning goal came inside the last 8 minutes, I think it was, and it came from Victor Elitu the day after he's just signed his first ever professional contract for us. So he's now with us until 2025. We've got an analysis of him on the website, so go take a look at that. There's some good clips showing his kind of playing style, and it was done by a guy called Scout7 Calcio. Some of you might know him from Twitter, and the way he was describing him to me privately is there's some serious potential with this kid. He's 17 and he's already on the fringes of getting some training sessions done and playing some minutes with the first team. And he's meant to be a bit of a cross between Kessie and Benacer. He's got the physicality, but he's also got the technical ability. Really liked what I saw from him. And that's basically my conclusions on the game. It's a bit of a quick recap, but there's not much you can draw from it. It's just going through the motions of getting minutes in players' legs again. And luckily we didn't have any injuries either, touch wood. And I say that because I've seen some friendlies where players have been getting injured. I mean, one of our supposed targets, Broha, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's up with his knee. I suspect it's ligament damage.
Yeah, my buddy said he thinks it's an ACL or an MCL.
Yeah, someone said both. Some doctor tweeted saying he reckons he's done both ligaments, and that's why he let out such a shriek of pain. Because you can walk on an ACL, and you can actually walk if you do your MCL. It's not very comfortable, but you can walk, and he was just like, no. So you can't twist your knee, you can't move it anywhere. Poor guy's going to be out for a long time, and if we were targeting him, we might have to look elsewhere now.
We probably won't, though. We'll probably still sign him. That's what we do. We just want a discount now. That's it.
Yeah. He'll still pass a medical.
Yeah.
Speaking of medicals and failed and passed and all that, we were linked by the British press, and I say British press because unfortunately it was the Sun, but they said that we're still interested in Anthony Robinson to be Teo's deputy, which is quite interesting because has his heart problem been fixed?
I think it was.
Pass a medical for us this time?
I think he did
get
cleared.
An operation.
I'm pretty sure, to my knowledge. I thought he did. I will say he had a great World Cup until the Netherlands game. He was abysmal against Dumfries, and with Dumfries being an injured player, I don't think that's someone I want.
I also read an interesting fact about medicals with Milan. So a long time ago, under Berlusconi, Milan Labs was a renowned medical thing, Mm-hmm. Then Berlusconi cut funding to Milan Labs, and that is why we suck at medicals, and our players are always injured. So
he's also been away from ownership for 7 years, though. At some point, we could have
cut it a long time ago.
Yeah,
obviously.
But I'm saying, in the last 7 years, we could have done something to improve it, And we just
I think we do need to, even if it's just investment in research, because players have complained about how hard the training pitch is, and that can't be good for your tendons, which then impacts everything else, and that's how you get so many muscle problems and stuff there's got to be something done there. I know that we have invested in the cryo chamber shit and I don't know, recovery materials and therapy massage guns and all that crap, but it doesn't seem
it's just a waste though.
Much.
Those cryo chambers are no better than people make fun of Napoli for the ice baths and the dumpsters. It's the exact same thing as a cryo chamber, but it's not costing them $100,000.
I think I might have told this story before, but I went to watch Milan against. I went to watch Huddersfield against Bologna once in pre-season in the Alps in Austria. It was really good. And after the game, Andrea
That was
Poli
like 2 years ago, right?
Just before our second Premier League season, so it was like 2018.
Yeah, okay.
God,
I remember seeing those pictures on Twitter.
The picture, yeah, and Polly's just stood up in literally an industrial waste bin full of iced water with, I think it was Alfred Duncan. I could be wrong, but he was with somebody, and I was just like, "Can I have a picture?" And said Forza Milan, and he looked a bit stunned, but one-off opportunity, I suppose. Anyway, friendly done out the way. Now I guess we've got two more. I don't know. You can get more conclusions from these games that are coming up. I think it would be fair to say against Arsenal and Liverpool. So we play Arsenal tomorrow, which is December the 13th. We're recording this on Monday. And then we play Liverpool on Friday. It's the Dubai Super Cup is what they're calling it. And they're calling it a tournament. But as far as I know, we just play those 2 games and that's it. I don't know if we'll get a trophy or anything.
So there's like 6 teams there, something like that. But they're each only playing 2 games. And then they're just taking like an aggregate or something. I don't understand how they're doing it, but someone's getting a trophy somehow.
I think Liverpool lost to Lyon first game 3-1. So that's a bit of a shock, maybe. Again, like
I don't know. Liverpool's got a lot of players at the World Cup, don't they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about Arsenal and Liverpool is that if it's half of our team, or maybe it's like 2/3 of our team that will be available for this, it's probably less for those two. And I think Luis Diaz has actually sustained an injury.
He's out for a while, yeah.
Yeah, so it just goes to show, doesn't it? Like, I don't mind us bubble wrapping our proper star players, and we just use this as a rhythm exercise because, it's Dubai, it's warm weather. As far as I gather, it's like late 20s in Celsius. I don't know what that would be for you guys. I should learn the conversion, but it's quite warm, basically, compared to freezing point of Milan. So I think the players are happy to be out there, but Tatarusanu did say today, like, they've had to adapt to the heat again. It is like a 20-odd degree difference, so I understand that. And I guess we'll see how we get on in these friendlies. I've got the starting lineup that we are supposed to be fielding for tomorrow's game against Arsenal, and maybe this says a lot about the players that we have at our disposal. So it's going to be Tatarusanu in goal, so AJ, you don't have to watch. Kalulu will be right back, Gabia, Tomori as the centre-backs, and Pobega at left-back, because Teo's obviously still at the World Cup and Ballatore is on vacation. So that could be fun.
So we literally just don't have a third left back on the squad.
Yep. Well, I was thinking, could we play someone from the Primavera, but I don't know.
No, Pobega is a much better answer.
Tonali and Vronks are going to be the double pivot, apparently, with Salamakis on the right, Adley in as the number 10, Rebic on the left, Origi up front. Well, what I will say is these will be useful minutes for Salamakis, who's obviously coming back from injury. We need to see how he is after
he's going to start. Did you say that?
He's still shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then obviously Rebic could do with hitting the ground running. Adley, be nice if he could get a couple of goals in games against actual meaningful opposition. And then Origi really needs to show us more. Like, he didn't look out of place coming up against a Serie D side. Like, we need something from him. There was a report saying that he's on like an individual training program while we're out there to try and actually fully get him over his injury and get him up to 100%, because I get the impression we've been sort of slapping a bandage on after every game because his tendons are fucked and stuff. But we do need to see more from him. I know he was a free transfer, but we need a return on investment there, because we tried so hard to get him and we thought that he'd be an ideal sort of deputy to Giroud or even alternating with, and nothing there. Then like the back four in the midfield, you can't really draw too much from, because not many of those players will be starting, bar obviously Tomori. Kalulu will probably start alongside Tomori. Yeah, Tomori and Tonali. I ain't going to ask for a prediction. I've not seen anything about the Arsenal starting 11. I think that they flew out there before we did, so they might be a bit more acclimatized. I don't know.
It's going to be 3-7 for Arsenal.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing random numbers out there. doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah, it
matter at
doesn't,
all.
it doesn't.
The only thing I'm happy about is, you see the bus pictures where we travel before games. It just seeing Zlatan and Mike in those pictures again. That's all that matters to me. I know they're obviously not going to play and probably won't play at all during this thing, but the fact that they're at the point where they're traveling now is a big plus.
Yeah,
I just don't want to see any injuries.
Yeah, that's the main thing for me as well. Like I would take 2 4-0 defeats, to be honest, if it meant that we had a fully fit squad or nearing a fully fit squad heading back home. What is worth noting is that Benacer has joined back up with the team, but he's not expected to play against Arsenal, but should be okay for the Liverpool game. CDK will join the team somewhere between the 2 games and should play a portion of the match against Liverpool, which I think is important.
Where was Benacer?
I don't know. Benacer had been because Algeria had some games.
Oh, they
I don't
just
know if
played
they were
friendlies or
AFCON
something?
qualifiers or something. I don't know. They did play games, and then you have like Kalulu, Chiao, and Vronks, who were with the under whatever teams, because I think there's some Euro qualifiers for that. So yeah, it's a bit of like a cobbled together squad that they've taken out there. And I understand why they've gone out there for a warm weather training camp, because it should help. But then it's mad that it really is 2/3 of the squad at most, and then topped up with the Primavera. But yeah, the starting lineup for the Liverpool game shouldn't actually be massively different. I think what perhaps worries me a little bit is that the latest reports from like Milan News and Sky are that Maignan won't play any of the friendlies, and might have to miss that Salernitana game. I was under the assumption that he would be fine, because he nearly made the World Cup, or at least that's the way that it was spun. And then France made a last-minute decision not to call him up, and now we're looking at an extra month before he can.
I think maybe it's just precautionary. Like, why risk him?
Yeah, we don't learn anything from those games, but I do think match rhythm is if we can give him like 45 minutes against PSV, I'd just feel that little bit safer going into the Salernitana game if he was fit enough, and if not, then don't risk him, obviously. Yeah, I think that's about it, really. I guess we wait until the PSV game. That should be getting closer to our like actual starting 11, and for some reason that game's being played in Eindhoven rather than a more exotic location, but it is what it is. Any news, boys? Any players that have caught your eye since we last chatted about the World Cup?
No.
Just
been going through the motions, man.
I am very excited for Serie A to be back.
Yeah, I want club football back now. Yeah.
Especially now that the breaks are longer between games.
It's like, all right, I don't give a shit. Just give me Milan back. Yeah.
Like I know they have to be longer breaks. There's only 4 games left, so it's like, of course, but still, I'm just like,
Honestly, that first day where there wasn't 4 games felt so miserable, so awful. It felt like the end
miserable.
End of the tournament. Yeah, that's why I love the World Cup
withdrawal is like absolutely real.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, play one every year with 48 teams. I agree with Infantino.
Isn't it every other year?
4.
Yeah, but didn't he want to do it every other year?
Yeah, I thought.
Was it every other year?
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
That. Otherwise, it loses its impact. Anyway, Ziyech, apparently we can't afford him anymore. He's been so good at the World Cup that teams with more money want him. That is the most.
He was available for only 8 million over the summer.
This is it. Like with our strategy, it's so weird. It's like we've got to buy on the dip for these players, because if they start going back up, we can't afford them anymore. And it's like the chance was there in the summer, and I feel like we didn't push as hard as we possibly could have done.
I think we can't afford them, but then we go out and spend 35 million on a player like CDK, so the money's there if it makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
I understand why Chelsea might not have agreed for a loan with option deal as well. Like now he probably has a market. Now there's probably a team that is willing to pay up, whoever it may be. Amrabat is the same kind of thing as well. Like he's been so impressive for Morocco that he's been linked with Spurs, Man United, teams in the Premier League who can probably offer him more salary than us. I think that's it in terms of the targets that we've been linked with. Leao ended up scoring 2 goals, and his second goal was an absolute beauty, albeit to make it 6-1. in a game that was already done and dusted. But it was a gorgeous strike from the corner of the box, just bent it inside the far post. Keeper seemed to perhaps not read exactly where the ball was, or he thought that he'd shaped it wide or something. But yeah, it just nestled in there. And now we'll see what happens with his renewal and, of course, Benacer's as well. Let's do some questions then. Okay, this is an interesting one. We'll start with something that's nationalist themed. Alessandro asks, do you think we need more Italians in the team? I presume he means squad in general.
It just whatever the required amount is. I mean, that should obviously be the minimum. But
yeah,
I mean, if they're good enough to play, then great. If not, then no. Like I don't have any affinity towards having more or less. You know, it doesn't bother me one way or another where the players are from, just as long as they're good enough.
What AJ said.
Yeah, I think there are some obvious rules where like we can help ourselves with the squad regulations situation. I think it's 4 homegrown, so 4 that have to have come through our academy and 4 that came through academies in Italy. So, for example, we're swapping out Tatarashanu for Marco Sportiello next season. So that's a tick in the squad list category. I think if we were to sell Ballo-Torre, make our money back on him, it probably makes sense to go for like a young Italian left back like Parisi if there was somebody out there that fit the bill. But yeah, ultimately, like you've got to earn those spots on merit. There might have been a time where we go all in for Berardi because we needed that right wing upgrade. This might have been 2 or 3 years ago or whatever. And it comes with the added bonus of him being an Italian player that's come through an Italian academy. But, aside from that, we're not exactly being linked with many Italian players. Mm-hmm. So I think it really is just a case of we fulfill those regulations for the squad and then shop abroad because it's cheaper.
There's more talent.
Yeah, there is 100%.
Like Italy has not been producing many talented players.
It's got a bit of a lag at the moment.
On the other side of that, though, like wouldn't producing Italians help that? Like, won't Italy make more talents if the big Italian clubs buy them and develop them?
Yeah, but like it's not like they can just make them. They're just going.
Oh yeah, I know that.
It's like right now the U.S. is creating for us talented players. 10 years ago we weren't. It's not like you can just be like, hey, let's create these.
Yeah, but
it takes investment.
The level down. could be higher though. Like some of these players that are at teams like Bologna that stay there forever could have a higher peak potential than what they actually achieve because they never leave that small club. So maybe if a bigger Italian club came in, they might do a bit better and get called up or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe the smaller clubs are just being too greedy and wanting too much
that's true.
Players.
That's very true.
That is true. I mean, you look at Raspadori, he's probably an example of like a player who sort of came through at Sassuolo and then was linked with most of the top teams. And then he got the move to Napoli and he's done quite well at Napoli. And now he's starting for the national team and stuff. But that can't be a one-off. Like that needs to happen across the board. We're lucky because we've got Tonali and we can point at Tonali and say, even though we got him from somewhere else, we can say like, well, we've got some of the future of Italian football. Barella is maybe that to an extent. And, but it'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I look at it, if I put my England tinted spectacles back on, English football was a joke like 3 World Cups ago, should we say, and most recently this tournament. But no, we were a joke. Like we missed qualifying for the 2008 Euros, crashed out in group stages of World Cups routinely. But then something just seemed to change, and this batch of what most would consider top level talents, your Foden, Grealish, Bellingham, more recently Rice. All these players came through. The under-19s, the under-21s were winning tournaments. But then you have to wait a little bit longer for them to actually be ready for the jump to the national team. And most of that, in my opinion, came from the investment that teams have done on their youth academies. Like Chelsea, Cobham is a production line. Even Arsenal are producing some great players. Man City, them being now like one of the superpowers of football really helps England. And United are always going to produce players. It's just that it's the more you invest, the more you get out. And I think Italians, generally speaking, clubs and stuff are quite backwards on that front.
I don't remember the name of it because I just don't speak Arabic, so it's really hard to remember an Arabic name. But there was an academy that was built I can't remember exactly when it is, so this is going to be a really poor recreation of a tweet I saw. But there was a Arab Academy built, I want to say, in Qatar a few
Yeah.
years back for the
This
idea
team.
of this World Cup, and well, yes, their team specifically, but there was also like 5 Moroccan players that came through it that are just killing it now. Like Boufal was one of them, and the guy whose name starts with an M that I can't remember. I think the striker as well, El something.
Mazrui was there, I think.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, it just like you said, it just
El
goes to show that
Nasiri.
if you put in the investment, you're gonna see something back. So, not to attack Steph, but to go back to one of his tweets that I thought was wrong when he said the USA will never in world history win a World Cup ever because you can't just throw money at infrastructure to build a national team. You absolutely can, and we saw that this World Cup. We've seen that at the club level, which yes, you get other nationalities mixing in and other things, but it's still the same thing. If you invest in the youth and you invest in the top level and you take it seriously, you can throw money at that and build that investment and get top talent out of it.
I can't believe these words are coming out of Mr. I Hate Youth Soccer's mouth or Academy.
I don't enjoy watching it. It's not. It doesn't.
You
do
like the
anything for
end
me.
product, not the process necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. The stars of high school basketball, and they're going to get drafted to the NBA. I'm not watching them in high school. I've never watched one LeBron James non-NBA highlight. Like, I'm not going to do that.
I'm sure you've seen one.
No, I've actually never seen one. The only thing from his high school I've seen was the Sports Illustrated cover from Grant Wall, RIP. So that's it.
Yeah, RIP indeed. Yeah, that was mad. But that's definitely for another time. Just as a last point on that, probably Red Bull are also an example of that. Obviously, it's not international, so it's not country specific, but you've got Salzburg and then Leipzig and the satellite clubs, as they call them. They put money in. They've got world-class training facilities. They procure young talent when they're like early teens. Mm-hmm. The players they brought through stand to prove that you get out what you put in. Hossam Diwan asks, wasn't this World Cup break a perfect opportunity to sit down with Benacer and agree a renewal? Is it a bad sign that they haven't yet?
He's leaving.
Well, you just said he was with Algeria, and I didn't even know that, so maybe that's all it is.
Let me just look at their results, and I'll let you know when he played. But I know he has been on international duty, and that's why he's joined up with the team late.
Speaking of renewals, do you think Leao not playing a lot of minutes hurt his price tag internationally?
A little bit, but more in the fan eyes than I think in anyone else. Like, you're going to see a lot of people clowning on him, like, "Oh, he was a Serie A MVP. He only played 87 minutes." But you look at he
scored 2 goals in 87 minutes. Just saying.
Exactly, he had the best goal to minute ratio in the World Cup, to my knowledge. So, I mean, it's hard to argue against him. When he came on against Morocco, that was the only time they had attacks. You could say it was because Ronaldo came on at the same time, but Ronaldo didn't do anything with the ball outside of a few headers that missed. He got those balls from crosses from Leao. Every time Leao had a 1-on-1 or 1-on-2, he beat his men. I think a part of it is Santos specifically is seeing him as lazy, which is what we originally saw in the beginning. But what you're watching is a really fast, explosive player who knows he could beat guys 1-on-1 if he has a little bit of space. So he just appears lazy a little bit and just kind of walks out, drifts to the side by himself, inconspicuous, not drawing attention. And then once he gets that ball, he blasts and he's off and he's beating guys, and that's how he's creating his chances. And we're seeing it week in, week out, and Santos isn't. And I think he sees that and says, "Oh, he's lazy." Also, they put the two-striker formation.
This coach is watching these players every week.
I mean, he just got sacked, so maybe he's not. But
he has a favoritism for João Felix as well, and I don't really understand where that. Obviously, it was a group of forwards, but I don't really understand where that comes from because he didn't do a lot for me in those first 3 group stage games, and yet he.
I can't believe Atletico still wants over 100 million for him. They publicly said we're trying to offload him, and then Fabrizio was like, "Yeah, they want over 100 million." And I'm like,
I mean, they paid 150 million, and that just seemed mental in hindsight. Like, how was he ever going to be a good fit for Simeone's side? They need to be like big, physical, everything that he's not, And also,
right now,
one
he's
thing
a
about
35,
Fernando,
40 million player. Sorry, that's it.
Yeah.
How much did he cost them?
150.
Jesus Christ!
Like, imagine. That's crazy because it's Atletico Madrid,
Yeah.
It's not Real Madrid. It's not Man City or whatever. And yet
Who did they sell? They sold some. Oh, they sold Griezmann for a crap ton.
I mean,
and
he's
then got
only
him
like
back
2
years
inches
later.
taller than AJ, so he's pretty short.
You're not even 2 inches taller than me.
I'm an inch taller than you.
So then you're pretty
He's
short.
taller
is
than
what
you
you're saying.
as well.
And he's an inch taller than me.
There you go.
Yeah. Another thing about Fernando Santos is he's a really weird coach because he actually has repeatedly benched João Cancelo, and he's in the discussion for one of the best fullbacks in the world, you know. So he has his players and he has his styles. I think he prefers a hard-working team over flair, over being easy on the eye and stuff. And it's cost him his job. So there you go. Benacer renewal thing. He's changed agents, obviously, to Enzo Raiola, who took on all the clients after his cousin Mino Raiola passed away. Obviously, the good news is that Pietro Massara from Milan News, obviously a reputable source, said that it has absolutely no relevance to him pushing for a move away, and if anything, it was his old agent who wanted to get him a move. And if anything, it's probably positive that he's changed, because it might result in things accelerating for the renewal process. But yeah, I've just checked, and Algeria had friendlies against Mali and Sweden, hence why he's only coming back now. Could we have met his agent during that time? Probably yes, but Maldini and Massara were in Qatar watching games and stuff, so there's still a lot of moving pieces, even though there's a break. And I think January will be important on that front. And I do expect offers to arrive, to be honest, because he's our best midfielder at the moment.
I did see, and I don't remember who the source was, if it was just complete made up garbage or if it was reliable, but Juve wants Massara?
Yeah, that was there's just a one-off report from Corriere dello Sport.
Yeah.
No,
he's like, seriously, you can't wait, you know.
But like, it's bollocks, because the entire board has gone. So you need to fill the board from the top down. So until there's someone at that top level, how the hell would anyone know who they want? You know,
right? Yeah,
it's like us not having a CEO and them saying the CEO wants such and such to replace. It's total nonsense. I think it might have been taken a little bit out of context, and it was sort of more of a suggestion that once the board is in place, he's the kind of person they might go for, because ultimately he's kind of an assistant to Maldini, and he might fancy having a bit more prominence.
Doing a real job,
yeah, getting a real job.
I mean. Yeah,
that's
makes 10 times as much money as me, but you know.
I'd just promote Moncada. He wouldn't do it, but if he was to leave, I'd just promote Moncada to be sporting director, to be honest. But he does seem to like being away from the limelight, so it's what it is. But I really hope Benacer renews anyway. My gut feeling is that both Benacer and Leao don't renew. Sorry, as in both of them don't renew. I think one of them does, but the other doesn't, and I can't tell.
I was gonna say,
I can't really see. I can't really.
I think we get both over the line.
It just feels too perfect to get both of them done, you know. I think we're used to failure when it comes to renewal negotiations.
I think we beat Spurs in the knockouts and then get it done.
That'd be nice. Next question comes from Newman and Kansa. Hope I've done that. I hope I've pronounced that right. What is the direction the new ownership must take for us to reach elite status? Also, what should we do in the next 2 transfer windows?
Buy
sign a right
players.
wing. Sign a striker.
Yeah, I think those are the main things. Maybe another right back. It just depends on what's going to happen with Destin Florenzi and how Calabria returns. You know, it's a little interesting there. And as we just realized by these friendlies, Pobega's playing left back because we only have 2, and both of them are gone. So might need another left back. Like, we do need more depth. We don't have a complete squad list right now, in my opinion. So we need depth. But the main positions are, as Madison said, striker and right wing. Yeah,
we're probably in the next 2 transfer windows. This sounds really bad and this might catch heat, but we're going to have to, in the next 2 transfer windows, kind of fix the mess that came about after the last summer transfer window, because I don't think that we found permanent fixes for a lot of the problems that we needed. As I say, we didn't recruit a new deputy left back. We didn't sign a midfielder who offers guarantees in terms of quality to replace Kessie. We didn't sign the right winger that we know we've needed for some time now. We didn't sign a striker that's going to score us 15, 20 plus goals. You know, the number 10 issue still isn't fixed. Like I think that the next 2 transfer windows are going to be where some of those loan with option to buy deals are swapped out for players that we actually invest in and believe in. But it all depends on the budget that's available. Like, it's easy for us to sit here and say, go out and spend 30 million each on these 3 positions. So that's 100 mil plus spend when you include wages, and we will be an elite team again. That's not how it works, unfortunately. And a big part of it has to come from off the field. Like, we need to raise revenues. Like, we need to earn more money. We need to get into the profit, having made big losses for the last few years in the accounts. So then we can comply with financial fair play, but push the boat out a bit more in salaries and transfer fees. We need our own stadium. That'd be massive. He's talked about turning us into like an entertainment company. So one that has content broadcast all around the world. That needs to happen as well, because you see Premier League clubs are just streets ahead in terms of their media production. Like, there's a lot for him to go at. There's a lot, but I think the most important and positive thing is that the platform is there. Like, Elliot did a really good job, and Gazidis did a really good job with that in terms of transforming us into something that is at least competent from a commercial side after years of just abject shite.
It'll be interesting to see how Fruani takes it, you know. Obviously, Gazidis had his way that was proven it was working, and Fruani's going to have his way, and it's just going to be interesting to see how similar it is or how different it is.
Yeah,
because we really don't know. I mean, he's only been in charge now, what, a week? And we just have no idea what he's going to do first.
Yeah, I agree. And there's another indicator as well, perhaps, that we're in the right direction. Obviously, we've got Puma as our like kit manufacturer. Before, they were paying us 15 million a year to do so. The new deal that we signed will see us earn 30 million a year from next year onwards, so start of 2023 onwards. Emirates were going to renew with this season. They were paying us 14 million. It's now expected to go as high as 35 million. We've got the back of shirt sponsor BitMEX, who are paying 5 million a year. Then we've got the training sponsor eFootball, and I don't know how much they're paying. I'd have to Google it, but basically, we're becoming desirable again. Like, the Milan shirt is what everybody wants to be associated with, and that's going to bring us more money, and that can extend across the board.
It's hopefully the fastest growing football brand in China and the USA, as far as Italian football, at least. And I think it was above most football as well. Yeah,
like absolutely dwarfing PSG, for example, who have massive superstars. And
I don't think people like PSG, though. Just like, potentially. Like, French football's not attractive.
Except you think about the...
And a few other players.
Well, and it's so difficult to actually watch here in America. Like, I got a buddy who is a big fan, and it's only carried on beIN Sports, which is a very niche channel that's not carried by most broadcasters. And when it is, it's like not in HD or something. Like, it's so difficult to watch League One in America that they're not growing here. You know, even the Messi fans have found it difficult, and he's probably losing a bit of that fanboy. You know, whereas at least when Ronaldo moved over, like, it was easy to watch him at Juventus. It's easy to watch him at Manchester United. Won't be easy to watch him in Saudi Arabia, but, you know, wherever he goes next, I'm sure people will find a way. But yeah, it's easier to watch Serie A, and I think that is credit to the league as a whole, making it more accessible worldwide.
Yeah, and actually, Paolo Scaroni, the obviously Milan's president, gave an interview this morning where he said it's not just on us in terms of growing as a club. Like, the league needs to get better. Serie A needs to pitch its product better to get better TV rights deals and stuff. I mean, the money the Premier League earns, don't get me wrong, that's on a different planet to every other league. But even like La Liga earns something like 3 times as much as Serie A does for selling its broadcast rights overseas.
I guarantee you that's going to drop, though.
I think the gap will probably shrink, yeah. We need to, like, having Milan and Inter being back challenging for stuff is good. Having Napoli as like a bit of a wild card, they're doing amazing, is probably good for how people view the competitiveness of the league. But then, as much as I hate to say it, if Juve did end up getting relegated or something, would that hurt the overall product? Like, there's one of your big dogs just gone.
It could, but I also think it would create drama and might get people more in tuned.
Imagine
I think it might actually help, to be honest.
Serie B's TV rights go for more than Serie A.
I think it'll help. I think the big crash of Italian football happened, obviously, with Calciopoli in 2006, and the fact that Juve immediately came back a couple seasons later, And yeah, Inter had their little reign of dominance there, but once Juve was back in it, they went on a decade-long tear, and everyone's like, the team that just got in trouble for match
cheated.
fixing. Yeah, it's like the cheaters are now winning domestic doubles, domestic trebles for 9 consecutive years. Why are we watching this league? They're just cheating again. And now that Inter won it, and then Milan win it, and Juve's kind of struggled a little bit, like there's facts to prove that the viewership has gone up in the last 2 seasons. And now you kick Juve out again. It's like, all right, those cheaters are gone again.
Okay.
They weren't the best when it happened. Maybe people are gonna
viewers went up, but it also
better.
became it came way easier to watch and way easier to get
I
your
agree with
hands
that.
on.
Yeah.
So like, you can point to the fact that it's also Milan and Inter, but also, don't exclude the fact that we actually have broadcasting rights now.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
I think
I just think
Dazen
people
have
are going to be
done-
happy to watch a cleaner league. No one's accusing the Premier League of match fixing. No one's accusing La Liga of it. Maybe Bundesliga, but that's about it. And then it's like, all right, now you have another clean league with some top talent, and there's always going to be those people who just don't want to watch the Premier League because it's the top one and they want to be different. And Serie A is the one to.
I just think about the games that you lose though, like Milan Juve gets huge viewership. Inter Juve, technically the Derby d'Italia, but I dispute that. That's for another time.
Mm-hmm.
That gets huge viewership. The Turin Derby gets huge viewership, or at least compared to like Sampdoria v Cremonese, it's a big game. I don't know. I don't know. I think.
Do you think
probably
Juve fans are not
damages-
going to watch Serie A though? They'll watch it less, but I think they're still going to tune in
There's not many
because
of
their
them,
goal
so
is
I
to
wouldn't
get right
worry about
back.
it.
If they get hugely punished, which we don't really know where it's heading yet, so this is still kind of hypothetical for the time being. If they get hugely punished, I think like the Super League thing rears its head again at some point, because they'll be like, what do we even have to hang on for anymore? We might as well just go for this project full on. But I don't know, man. There's a lot
Super League
of
failing is why they're
variables at
here.
play.
They were banking on that 1 billion euros.
Yeah,
They were
idiots. Rohit says, with a lot of hindsight, it's easy to ask this, but should Milan in the summer transfer window have put faith in Brahim Diaz and Krunic for the number 10 role and used the money to buy a specialist right winger instead of Dike Talara? What he means is that we wouldn't necessarily have got a player like Ziyech because he can play attacking midfielder and right winger. But basically the idea of signing a player who is an out-and-out right winger and trusting Brahim Diaz for the 10 role.
It's hard to say, try not to look at it in hindsight, but CDK hasn't worked out too well, but
tough one, isn't it? Because it's like,
it's a half a season.
Because you need to think about,
Tonali after a half a season was not the Tonali he is. Leao was not the same. Like, give the kid time. He's 19 in a new league.
21.
Okay, 21 in a new league, new language, away from home for the first time. Connect the dots, people. Like, what the?
Yeah, but
I understand why he's struggling.
Look at him. He's now on the Brazilian national team challenging for the World Cup, and our coach told him to be less.
Well,
Brazilian.
he's out.
Well,
he got eliminated.
Was challenging.
Like, no, he almost scored in that game too. I agree with what you're saying, but I think my point is we were defending champions going to try and go back to back. We don't have the time to invest heavy money in developing. I think we need, at that point, you go for ready-made players. So that 35 mil, I know in the question we just specifically said not Ziyech, but Ziyech was available for 8 mil. We could have got Ziyech and another midfielder and done the Leao renewal all at the same time within that 35 mil, So there were other options that might have gone further, but we also couldn't trust Brahim Diaz.
In 5 years, who's going to be playing better, CDK or Ziyech?
Well, Ziyech will be 34, so he'll probably be done at that point.
My point, that's my point.
The thing with Ziyech as well is, I know you said 8 million, but I think it was. Obviously, who said afterwards it was actually 44 million that Chelsea wanted because they paid like a lot for him, so they needed to sell for a decent amount to get their money back. I think if he was available for 8 million, we would have definitely signed him as well as because that's like an extra 4 million compared to what Macias cost us. So you probably just let him go and sign him. I know, as you point out, that the question doesn't ask about Ziyech, and I don't really know what other profiles that we were linked with to come in and be like a guaranteed upgrade in the right wing position, to be honest. But let's say it might have been a player like an Ismail Assar or somebody like that, just picking a name out of a hat. That might have cost us in the region of between 20 and 30 million euros, something like that, judging age and how and the fact that he's with Watford. That is still a risk in itself. Any player that you invest that amount of money in, you're banking on them coming over and adapting to the league straight away. And it doesn't always happen necessarily. With a young talent, yes, that you're most likely going to have to wait. And CDK did cost us 35 million so far. He just has 1 assist to his name. But I think they're just sticking with what works. They're sticking with what has worked for them to this point, and they're willing to give these players time. We're always frustrated when we don't get the shiny big name that we want. We're linked with Asensio. We're linked with Ziyech is a name, I suppose. Broha, like players from leagues that have more quality. Then we're always like, praise Maldini and Massara for finding gems like Kalulu and taking a chance on Benacer and investing on Leao and Teo and these players that none of us really knew before. And yet here they are. So I trust the process to an extent.
I do too, but my problem is eventually you get it wrong. You can't find a hidden gem every time you start digging. It's just not going to happen. Look, Napoli got everything right this summer in their transfer window with Kvaratskhelia or whatever and Kim and all that, but nobody thought they were going to be good. And I know people are saying like, "Oh, I watched him all the time at Ruben Kazan." No, you fucking didn't. You didn't know who he was. But I've seen people say that, I swear. And time and time again, they do get it wrong, and they're not signing the right players, but every now and then they do, and they're ready-made like that, and they make a huge impact on the league. It's not always going to happen that way, and that might just be what we got this time. He's not ready, and we spent the money.
Players who come in ready-made leave faster than players who come in develop, and then those players who develop have a bigger attachment to their club.
It's probably tough to sign ready-made
about
players.
That. It is, and you look at guys like Piontek, who we thought was a ready-made striker. We spent the 35 mil on him, and he killed it for a half a season for us, and then he was gone. It's like, who knows if these ready-made players that Napoli got are actually just one-season wonders. That's kind of what I'm thinking, to be honest with you, because, like I said, he doesn't have any track record of it. All of a sudden, he just came good. Like, where did Piontek come from before Genoa? They got him from a Polish team, right?
Cracovia, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he wasn't lighting the world on fire there. So
it could be like an unknown, having unknown quantities as players could be an advantage because nobody knows how to
Of course it is. Of course it is. And then there's obviously luck. You look at Piontek's goal against Napoli that first season where it was a cross into him and tried to settle it down and just took the world's most wicked deflection and, became goal of the week because of it. But there's a luck factor as well. And, we got a bit of bad luck, and just go back and like all you and I did last week, the our year in review. And I said our best assist was the one that CDK got for Leao. Go back and watch those early games, those early highlights. You'll see the CDK player was so much better than the one we're getting right now.
Yeah.
And that's confidence. That's people figuring him out. That's him not starting as much. That's a lot of different factors that are taking him down. But the player is there. We've seen it. And he did kind of get robbed of like 6 assists in the first half of the season. It just
the way
it goes sometimes. And that's just
and he should have a goal as well. That one that he kind of flapped at when it was near enough an empty net.
Yeah.
And like if that comes to him again, because he's a professional footballer, the law of averages says that he probably sticks that one away. And I said this last week, and I said it every week. I just want to see what happens if he scores a goal or when he scores a goal. I just want to see if that lights a spark. It might not. It might be like Origi, where we see a goal and then we see nothing for the next few games. But I just think for young players, it is all about that momentum and that getting the weight.
I can't remember the name, and that further proves my point because I can't remember his name, but it was someone like 2 or 3 seasons ago who was on fire, just banging him in left and right. And they looked at his XG, and he was performing it by like 12 or 14 goals. And that's that luck factor, because now I don't even know who it was anymore. He's not here. He's nowhere to be found, because now he's performing at his level. He's just not getting them lucky deflections, those lucky bounces, those lucky goalkeeping errors. Like, sometimes you just get lucky, and sometimes you get unlucky.
There's a thing about Tammy Abraham this season. Last season, I think he massively outperformed his XG, and this season he's underperformed it. So it's
maybe it was Tammy that I was thinking of.
Could be, yeah, it could be, because Roma as a team have massively underperformed their XG, which implies that they are missing so many chances. Whereas we and Inter and Napoli tend to just overperform it. So you need a bit of luck and a bit of quality too, because overperforming your XG isn't, and again, I have mixed opinions on XG, but overperforming it isn't necessarily always about luck. It's about you have the quality to score from places that other teams don't normally score from. But yeah, I think it might have been Tammy there. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there on the questions. But oh no, hold on, we got one more. And I do want to ask you guys about this. Lecce are rumored to be triggering the $3.5 million needed to buy Lorenzo Colombo outright. Do you think that we should take that money and put faith in someone like Marko Lazetic, or trigger the buyback clause that we have?
How long do we have to trigger the buyback?
It has to be done in the summer window.
And how big is the buyback?
So I think that's. I think their buyout is actually $2.5 million, and our buyback is $3.5 million. So they basically get like a $1 million development fee.
For that, just buy him back and then loan him again.
And tell him to go kick.
He has 3 times as many Serie A goals as Origi this season in a worse team.
So he has 3. Okay. Which, like, okay.
3 times 1 is 3. I like Colombo, and I think he's the most ready-made out of him. Obviously, we've got Marko Lazetic, who we paid like $4 million for from Red Star, and he's going to take a bit of time because he's had his injury problems. And then we've also got Marco Nasti, who's out on loan at Cosenza, but basically, you know, he's a couple of years behind them both. He's like 18, and he was the top scorer for the Primavera last season. So I think it goes in that order, and I think Colombo's the closest to being ready. But that doesn't necessarily mean that him coming back to be third choice striker and getting like the odd start in the cup is a good idea either. So I think the plan is pretty obvious.
How old is he?
Him back. He's 20.
Yeah. Then continue.
You bring him back and you loan him out again.
Yep, that's exactly it.
That's it. And if it's someone like a Torino, or you know, you level up in terms of club, and hopefully find someone good. Yeah, been a pleasure anyway. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and for sticking with us through the World Cup break. We will have 2 actual games to talk about next week, so that'll be nice. What conclusions we can draw from the friendlies and stuff like that. But I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
Yep, Trigger45 and Madison.
Edward__12.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and give us a rating on your favourite podcast platform. Really helps our algorithm and stuff. And we'll catch you in a week's time. Thanks for watching.
Eccolo Ante in area di rigore, Ante, Ibra, gol! Vediamo se è buono, ce lo dà buono, ce lo dà buono, ce lo dà buono.